welcome to Back to the Box Office, the show where we compare the biggest movies of today to the biggest movies in 1999. My name is Daniel. I'm here today with Marcus.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
I'm doing well. I can't speak for everyone, but what a time to be alive, as a movie fan. It's a terrible time.
Yeah, that's actually the truth.
Yeah, so the reason being that we're going to be talking today about Men in Black International, which was number one at the domestic and international box offices this weekend. And then we're comparing that to Disney's Tarzan from 1999. That was number one over the same weekend in that year. So why don't we just jump right into it? Marcus, you got the numbers?
Yeah, so I'll jump into the numbers and we'll give our analysis. So Men in Black International was released June 14th. It opened at $30 million. It had a budget of $110 million. It opened in 4,200 theaters. It made an average of $7,000 per theater. And I was thinking we can mention the Rotten Tomatoes score. So it has a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes. So Tarzan was released on June 16th, 1999. It opened at $34 million. It had a budget of $130 million. It made an average of $11,000 per theater. And overall, it made $448 million worldwide. 171 of that was domestic. It was the fifth highest grossing film of 1999, and altogether it made $448 million. So I think one thing that there's a lot of things I think that stand out to me about the numbers comparison, and that this is the second weekend in a row where the 99 film opened higher than the 2019 film.
Yeah, unadjusted.
Yeah, unadjusted. This is just straight up the actual raw numbers made. Yeah. That's really bad.
It's truly a testament to a weak box office, a weak run over the last few weeks for American movies.
Yeah, I mean, because I think last weekend, what was it? Pets made like $46 million, which was like a $62 million drop off from Pets 1 that it came out 3 years ago. And I mean, Men in Black, I mean, $30 million.
I don't know what they were expecting. Do you know what they were projecting for this movie opening?
I thought I saw at one point 40 to 50, I thought. I mean, did you see anything like that?
No, so I didn't look at the projections. I'm just wondering, from the studio exec perspective, what did they anticipate? I'm sure they didn't anticipate this is going to, this is not going to open at, 80, $100 million. It doesn't have that kind of cachet. What Men in Black has as a franchise, as a property, is people are aware that it exists. I don't think anyone or any particular group of people care too much that it exists. They're not interested in it actively. It's not a universe that is talked about a lot in the same way that even movies that haven't had a ton of sequels, like properties like Ghostbusters, for example, have just made their way into this kind of into the pantheon of nerddom, or whatever you want to call it, where people are really avid fans of it, and they're Ghostbusters conventions, and there's video games, and the toys are popular. Men in Black doesn't have that, and all Men in Black had, in my opinion, was, aside from, the first movie was really good, and, it's fun, but Men in Black was really predicated on Will Smith, and when Will Smith was not a part of your soft reboot or whatever this was supposed to be, why should people be interested in it? And the answer is that they're not. That's why it came out to 30 million.
I mean, it's like, I was just looking up right now the numbers for Men in Black 1 and 2, their openings. Men in Black 1 in 1997 opened at $51 million.
Yeah.
Men in Black 1 opened at $20 million more 22 years ago. That's unadjusted for inflation. The second one was $52 million, and the third one was like $54. So they're all in the realm of your 50-ish million.
But those are, the first one I think is 100% driven by Will Smith, because that's coming off Independence Day, and he was just the biggest movie star on the planet. The second one, I think what happens is you have in terms of the returns after you get a first movie in a franchise that is really good, really popular, obviously the returns on the second one are going to be much higher. And if that one doesn't work out, which Men in Black 2 was not really well regarded, and then you had a many years gap in between 2 and 3, then you get a drop off there. Even though the numbers are similar, they're just, when you adjust for inflation, it kind of underperformed. This one didn't have anything going for it. I mean,
nothing.
We're not in the age of movie stars. We're in the age of IP, and as in terms of IP, I don't think Men in Black has it.
No, I mean, for Men in Black, I think, especially like what you're saying, the first one, it was driven by Will Smith with Tommy Lee Jones in it. it kind of solidified that era of Tommy Lee Jones and cop movies. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only think of The Fugitive and oh my gosh,
He was
U.S.
in
Marshals. But I feel like he wasn't he in another film where he's a cop or something.
He
Maybe it was
was
just the two?
in Double Jeopardy. He was a parole officer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of
Yeah, so I mean, like Tommy Lee
Jones.
and Men in Black 1 kind of felt like that kind of buddy comedy cop movie from the 90s, so it kind of had that grit in it. And yeah, I mean, I think when the first one came out, so you're right, so not only did it have Will Smith in it, where so obviously he was a star power, but it was also a very unique plot. You know, especially, you know, at that time, you know, X-Files was on and kind of people waking up to the idea of like, oh, secret government agencies. So I think that kind of really attracted them. But now we've seen the Men in Black, and you're right, like they didn't bring back anybody except for Emma Thompson, who's she replaced Rip Torn because Rip Torn robbed a bank.
Yeah.
So he has a lot of jail or something weird. So like she's the only one that gets brought back, and yeah, I mean in a sense I kind of feel bad that the film did bad for like Chris Hemsworth, because I like Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and I think that he's a fine actor, but is not for him. His success has not translated into other movies. Like,
No,
it really hasn't.
hasn't. Like, I mean, look at, he did that movie 12 Strong, right? The war movie with the horses, and I think he was in that. Right? He did Black Hat, the Michael Mann movie that didn't do anything. He did. He was in Bad Times at the El Royale, which
I forgot he was
really,
even in that.
Really cool movie. I actually just watched it for the first time this weekend. I really liked it. He's great in it. But yeah, it didn't do anything. There's a couple of... Didn't he do something...
He was in that race car
movie?
He was
in, Rush.
Yeah,
the Ron Howard movie. I like the movie.
Yeah, but it didn't really make any money.
It's just, every project he's had outside of... he was in the other Ron Howard movie, In the Heart of the Sea, which also didn't do very well.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Was that the Moby...
Yeah, it was...
Oh, I know I saw that, but I literally can't remember anything other than the intro.
This is the problem, is that it's not it's not memorable. And
then, of course, he was in Ghostbusters for Sony 3 years ago.
He's had a bad run of... I mean, they keep on trying to make him this movie star, which by all accounts, he should be because he's got the look, he's got the personality, he's kind of found his niche in his humor, starting with Ragnarok, I think, and... Ghostbusters, I heard he was good in it. I didn't see it.
I think I've only seen parts of it, but I've heard people say the same thing, that he was one of the better parts of that. Whatever.
He was in that. He was in Vacation. He had a cameo, right? The Vacation reboot with Ed Helms.
Oh, I didn't know he was in that.
Yeah, he I liked him. He served his role well. He's a likable guy. He's a good actor, but and he and Tessa Thompson have chemistry as established.
Yeah, I mean, they've been
Ragnarok.
together now in 3 movies over the last 2 years or year and a half.
But I mean, what do you think? What do you think? Like, what do you think is the biggest reason? And so of this movie, is it like just franchise fatigue generally? Is it Men in Black property? What's your take on that?
See, I mean, I guess there's a couple different ways you can look at it, because I know a lot of people have been saying that it's franchise fatigue. That's why, if for the people that follow back to the box office, I mean, you notice, last weekend we talked about Pets 2. The weekend before that was Godzilla 2, or whatever, Godzilla 35, whatever number it is officially. Yeah, but I think for all 3 movies, for Pets 2, that Godzilla, and Men in Black International, I kind of feel like, I think it's less fatigue as it is the movies aren't that great. And I mean, there is an element for sure of fatigue, but yeah, I just don't think the movies are good. I mean, because look at Toy Story 4. I mean, so Men in Black and Toy Story have basically almost been around in cinemas for the same number of years, almost roughly. So when did the first Toy Story come out? Like 95?
95, yeah.
So they've both been around. So Toy Story's been around for 24 years and Men in Black for 22 years. I mean, in my opinion, just all things being equal, if I was given the story potential of a covert government agency that stops aliens, and then a group of toys, like if I was just given those things, all things being equal, I would say, I could probably do more if I was like a screenwriter. I feel like I could do more with the Men in Black idea. But like obviously we've seen that's not been the case, because Toy Story, like, I think the last time I heard, Toy Story 4 was tracking at $200 million. So I don't know if it's... I think, Toy Story 4 as of right now, it's very well... I think it has like still 100% Rotten Tomatoes, at least last time I
think it was 98 when I saw it.
All right, so 98. So I mean, it's tracking to do very well. It's being received very well. I guess you have to wonder for like Men in Black, if it was a great movie, would it make more money? Or like if Dark Phoenix was a really like good movie, could it have made more than, I think it opened at like 30 million?
I think a little bit more. I don't think it would make it like a bona fide hit. I don't, I think there is something to the point that you made, which is, the franchise fatigue is some part of it, but also people just have grown weary of watching bad movies. So you have to, sometimes you have to have a good movie. There's obviously examples in recent past summer history where, like, you get bad movies that still make a lot of money. For example, the whole Transformers franchise, until I think it was Age of Extinction, or what was the
fifth one?
What of it, The Kingdom? Whatever. I only saw the first one, but those movies, I think most people can think that those are not great movies, but they still made a lot of money until they didn't. And it's like I imagine that audiences are like, hey, you fooled me 3 or 4 times here. The fifth time, it's kind of on me. And the sixth time, unfortunately, was Bumblebee, which
a lot of people liked.
A good movie, but it just didn't do very well because it had lost its reputation. There's a word that I'm struggling to find here, but goodwill, essentially.
Oh yeah, you're right. It had lost all goodwill
as a franchise, and then once you have a string of 3 or 4 movies that are just really bad, I think you lose that goodwill.
Yeah.
And so, for Men in Black, not that I don't think people liked Men in Black 3. I have huge issues with the movie itself, which we can get into in a little bit, but and that definitely is part of the problem. But on the whole, I just think, like, look, we started this summer with Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
The biggest of all big movies, and where do you go from there? Because it just sets this expectation that's unrealistic and unattainable from any other property and any other studio. Even Disney itself can't match. So it's kind of a bad. It's we were talking about earlier, like, where would the box office be without Disney? It would be in true shambles. I mean, it would be disastrous. But at the same time, I think there is something to be said for the fact that Disney does create, like, putting that movie where it is in the front of the summer. It really it's like opening with the grand finale of something, and then everything else is just pales in comparison. So people are like, well, I spent $15 on a movie ticket, or 12, whatever it is, for Endgame. Maybe I'll skip out on Men in Black or Dark Phoenix because they don't look that good. I'm not that interested in the franchises. Maybe I'll wait for Toy Story, which I am interested in, which does have some kind of cachet going into it. Like, hey, it's going to be a good movie. It's going to be worth my hard-earned dollars.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a lot of good points. I mean, I would definitely say that, since Endgame's come out, if we're talking about, like, blockbuster or films that are supposed to be blockbuster releases, I would say the only 2 that have come out that I think are good, I think John Wick was really great, but, Aladdin I thought was definitely good. I would say Aladdin and John Wick 3 are the only ones that have come out where those are supposed to be blockbusters that I thought were actually good and worth watching. And also, like, met their expectations to some degree. Exactly. Exceeded in John Wick's case. Because I think Aladdin right now, when I looked, like, earlier today, was like $730 million domestic, which, in all honesty... Domestic? Or not domestic, sorry. International. Oh, man, no, that would make it one of the biggest films of all time. Domestic. But, I think when we recorded Aladdin, I guess I didn't realize how many international markets it had been out, because I was a little bit more pessimistic. I was thinking, this will probably be 500 to 600 million worldwide. So $730 million, that's very good. Pretty good for Aladdin. But yeah, I mean, I think John Wick came out the weekend before Godzilla. So after John Wick 3 to now, it's been bad. And all these movies we've been watching, like, I mean, I'm just trying to think of all the ones that have come out that I didn't like that I've seen. So yeah, we're talking Secret Life of Pets 2, which was so boring, I almost forgot all of it. Dark Phoenix, which is bad, but not as bad as people said. Like, the reviewers made it sound, but it was bad. Godzilla, awful. Men in Black, I mean, well, definitely when we talk about the movie more, we get into this. I mean, that movie caused me to have a headache, and there was like 10% of me later that night when I got back to my house were like, I actually thought I was gonna die. It was such a weird feeling. I'm like, what's wrong with me? I'm like, my head hurts a little bit, my stomach hurts. Like, I've never had a movie feel like that to me. But
and we saw it together. I can attest. You did not eat like bad. You didn't eat anything. There was nothing. It was just purely the movie itself. And I
guess from a box office standpoint, I guess beginning with Toy Story, then running into July, things will pick up because you'll have Toy Story and then Spider-Man and then Lion King.
All Disney.
Yeah, all Disney. Or I guess even in the case of Spider-Man, Disney's Sony, involved. I guess Universal has hopes for Shaw and Hobbs. I don't know.
I think that could actually do pretty well.
I don't know if it'll do Fast and Furious numbers. No. I don't think it'll do that, but that could be okay. But yeah, this is a really terrible June. I know June's always kind of weird because isn't it like May and like is it May typically like the hottest month for the summers for the films that come out? And then doesn't it like July is also pretty good, but isn't June typically kind of a slump? But this is like a very severe slump.
Yeah, I think you have like Memorial Day. They try to gather around that date, and then you have July 4th as the big, target that the bigger temples try to hit. Then June is kind of this in-between phase. But I don't know, historically. I mean, I think the whole summer season's meant to be...
Yeah, in general, it's supposed to be a big time.
And maybe that's part of the problem. Although it hasn't been an issue in some years past. But this summer is weird. Like, even movies that are designed to be, like, counter-programming to the big blockbuster fairs, like Booksmart.
What was that movie, The Late Show movie? What was it called?
Yeah, Late Night that came out this week. Like, they're just not doing well. In past years, I think last year we had 8th Grade that came out in the summer that did fairly well for a movie of its budget, and I think it had high per screen averages. And
you had like a film like Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, Crazy Rich Asians was a really big movie. I mean, but it had in fairness, that's like another tier. The budget was much bigger than it is for something like Booksmart, I think, or maybe more akin to like a Lady Bird Booksmart comparison. Although I don't think Lady Bird came out in the summer. But either way, I think last year you also had Black Klansman come out. Right. Last summer you had Hereditary, which is Ari Aster's horror movie that I think it did a decent amount. Actually, Ari Aster has his next movie's coming out in a few weeks, I think, Midsummer. Okay. So hopefully maybe that'll be good. But yeah, it's been a weird summer. Like, even the movies that are supposed to be counter-programming to that stuff. Long Shot you had with Charlize Theron and
I totally forgot about that.
I mean, it came out and it just didn't.
It was a whimper.
Any impact, and those are big actors. And it had great reviews. It should have, by word of mouth, it should have hit this demo that was maybe like more adult. The 30 to 55-year-old demo. I don't.
That movie should have probably had made at least $100 million domestic with those two names and good reviews.
In years prior, it may have.
That probably should have, yeah.
And in 2019, like we often talk about it just seems like that should be a good Amazon Prime or Netflix movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even thinking back to, I think last June, I might be mistaken about the first one, but I'm pretty sure that Incredibles 2 and Jurassic World 2 both came out in June. I know for sure Jurassic World
and Incredibles 2, I think. They always come around this time.
So they both did really well. I mean, both of those, I know for Incredibles 2 was like, it made over $600 million domestic.
Yeah.
So in May you had last year you had Black Panther in February make $700 million domestic. Then you had Infinity War that came out in May, which made, $678 million domestic. Then Incredibles the next month, 622, and then I think Jurassic World 2, man, I'll pull up the numbers, but I'm pretty sure it was like 500 million. Probably.
Can I ask, did you just memorize those numbers? Because you weren't looking at anything when you.
I just memorized them. So that's why if I accidentally.
Yeah, don't write in and tell us that we got the numbers wrong. Not that we have an inbox or anything, but you know what I mean.
I guess, yeah, they could just find our email address.
Yeah, don't be stalking us like that. It's a weird time. It's not to say that these are necessarily all terrible movies. I think Booksmart, I think it'll find its audience. Like Late Night especially is a good one because it's an Amazon movie, and Amazon paid $13 million for it, for the right to distribute it, and now they're going to put it out in theaters, and maybe they figure whatever it does is okay. It's like an extra cherry on top because their real target is to get it onto the streaming platform in a couple months, which I think there's like a 3-month window, and then it goes on to Amazon Prime. So,
the domestic for Jurassic World 2 was $417 million domestic, and it opened in June, and it's worldwide. It was $1.3 billion. Yes, I mean, it did actually. Jurassic World 2 actually did considerably less domestic than the first one, but I mean, I guess it even kind of gets into this idea too about the whole, streaming service thing, and that's, for like, let's say a film like Long Shot. I mean, let's say you do sell that to Amazon, right? And it's on Amazon Prime. Like, how do they validate that they're recouping what they spent on that movie? Like, how do they measure? Like, especially a film like that, where it's like, I know that there's the Netflix films that kind of blow up, like, but the Bird Box. And, like, I know that there's shows that blow up where it's like, because isn't Black Mirror, that's exclusive to Netflix, right?
Now it is, yeah.
So, like, I understand that's bringing in people, or, I was going to call it
subscribers.
Yeah. Stranger Things, that's the big Netflix show, right? Yeah, like, those bring in people, but, like, how do you measure this? And I mean, in my opinion, and obviously, like, I'm no expert in the field, but, like, I feel like this is a big boom for these smaller movies and shows to be made right now, but I feel like within 3 to 5 years, I feel like there's going to be a huge contraction where they're not going to, like a film like Long Shot or the Late Night Show.
Late Night.
Like, I feel like even that won't even be on streaming services unless it's made on a $1 million budget or something, because they're going to look at it and they're going to say, like, well, if that film only made $4 million opening and it's only going to make less than $20 million domestic, are they even going to bother to make it at that point?
Well, I don't think. I mean, you're talking about actually releasing in theaters, like
traditional
distribution. I don't know. I don't understand like how the metrics work for Netflix and Amazon. Amazon Prime's a little bit different because they do release their movies in theaters. There's a window there where it's traditional, so we can see those numbers, and then once it goes on to their service, then it kind of like I don't know how you measure that. With Netflix, it's interesting. Like actually this weekend on Netflix, a big movie came out, which I guess is kind of big. It was the Adam Sandler Jennifer Aniston movie, and I forgot the name. Like the murder mystery or some kind of. It's like an Agatha Christie spoof. Okay. I watched like the last 30 minutes of it because I came home and my mom was watching it, and. I didn't need to watch the rest of the movie. I knew exactly what was going on as soon as I picked it up. It seemed fine. It seemed like, it's all shot in location in Europe. It's part of the string of Adam Sandler movies where he just makes movies to go on vacation and get paid for it, which is really brilliant. I mean, I would do the same thing in his position.
There has been a number of those. He's done a vacation movie with Jennifer Aniston before.
Yeah, I agree. Just go with it.
Was that what it was called?
Yeah, I actually like that movie.
I like that one too, but literally they're in Hawaii and Dan Patrick's in it. And
dude, this is what he does now, which is good for him. And
if he can get that gig, you
I just wonder, like, I think in a weekend like this, when Men in Black came out and it was the #1 movie and it only made $30 million, I wonder how many more people sat in their houses, put on Netflix and watched the Adam Sandler movie. And we don't have those numbers as a thing. And even if that number was exorbitant, I don't know, let's say 20 million people watched that movie over the weekend, we don't know how those individual views are converted to actual dollars. And Netflix is intentionally obtuse about it. The only thing that I think about the war chest of content that they're putting money towards and creating is their business model initially was to purchase licenses from other studios in order to house their content. And those licenses are expensive and they have to renegotiate every couple of years, whereas the content that they themselves create and produce, they own, and they don't have to pay an additional, so that they can put 15, 20, 30, $40 million to this kind of movie, and they know what they're spending, and then they see if they could, I think in the future, if they could get entirely out of the licensing business, since everything is going to have their own streaming content anyways, it seems like, that's probably what they're heading towards. It's like, can we sustain this level of membership and not have to pay the licenses and only sustain it on like the content that we're producing and controlling?
I mean, I think you raised a really good point. I mean, I think Netflix announced, I think it was like 2 or 3 months ago, something like that, where like 50% of all new things on Netflix from now on will be their own original content.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you're right that that's their goal. I mean, that's also kind of is that sustainable? Because, I mean, like you mentioned right now, all these other companies or studios are starting their own streaming service. Like Warner Bros. Is having like their big package that's going to include like HBO, and I forgot what the other two. They're making like their own big streaming thing. Warner Bros. Is. I think Universal, when they sold their right to Hulu to Disney, I think they mentioned something similar. I mean, Paramount which is owned by the parent company that owns CBS All Access. I mean, they're kind of already in their own streaming service, so. I mean, you raise a good point that, I mean, there's other studios. I think that it would be a mistake for them to do that, to start their own streaming services.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think that there's enough of a marketplace for one person to have like 6 streaming services.
It's already saturated.
Yeah,
there's too many, and I think it's going to be, once that happens, it's going to be like cable all over again. Someone's going to come along and package everything together, and you can pick and choose your packages and pay it a given amount based on what you choose. So I don't see what the difference is. It's all going to come around to the same thing.
I think you're totally right. I think within 10 years there will be something like that. Like you said, like whatever flat rate that you get to pick from Netflix and Warner Brothers and Disney Pluses and Amazon and Apple.
Yeah.
But for the time being, I mean, yeah, there is huge saturation with that, and I feel like how this impacts the box office today, and I think we've mentioned this before in previous episodes. When you have big event type movies like Endgame, and like when Lion King was out or Toy Story, like films that have all this buzz generated around them, and they're perceived to be very good. All the critics are in favor of them. At least we don't know yet for Lion King, but these other films, I think that people are like, oh wow, like let's do that. Like that's something to do. There's a lot of buzz. People are talking about it. People are talking about it on the internet and in real life, and people gravitate towards that. But when you have a film like Men in Black or Secret Life of Pets 2, where they're just perceived to be either bad to mediocre, I think that causes a lot of people to just say, oh, I don't care to go. I mean, to put this in perspective for people that are thinking like, oh, well, $30 million isn't that bad when you consider that it had a $110 million budget. I mean, like $30 million that's very bad for a film that, has Chris Hemsworth, Liam Neeson, and it's a popular, or at least a well-known IP. So Men in Black might not be the biggest franchise on the planet, but a lot of people in the U.S. know what Men in Black is.
Yeah, but
like they've heard of that franchise
just don't
before.
Care.
Yeah, that's it. They don't
Yeah.
care. So I mean, if you're a studio too, I feel like, it's like the same people looking at like working at Paramount when they, they're working on Sonic. I think Sonic looks like it's gonna be terrible, and obviously they're fixing it up to make it look better. But if you're the people at Paramount, you look at Detective Pikachu and how that film only made a little over $400 million, and that was perceived to be good, and it had Ryan Reynolds. If you're Paramount working on Sonic, you look at that and say, wow, like our film is probably still going to suck, and it doesn't have big stars. How are we going to make as much as Detective Pikachu, right? Like, I feel like with these, even like a Men in Black, like I guess you kind of alluded to, I mean, unless it was perceived that it was going to be phenomenal, but even if it was phenomenal, I mean, what would it have made?
I think
twice as much,
I
maybe?
think Sony just looked like they have release calendars, and they're looking at it. Okay, we got Spider-Man coming out in July. We need something else to shore up this summer. And you look inside your little chest of IP that you own, and there's not that much in there.
Yeah.
And Men in Black was, it's an obvious choice. But then you just pluck it out and you put it into a machine and say, okay, we need a Men in Black movie this summer. You can, but you don't make. That's not making a movie. You're just literally, I don't know what you call it. It's not any way to make a film with kind of any kind of artistic or even entertainment value.
This movie has,
for me, anyways. Maybe some people liked it, but that's why. And that, with Paramount, I feel like that's everything. Everyone is chasing a franchise. Everyone's chasing a film universe. They're all chasing Disney. They're chasing IP. And when you look into your chest of IP, and the only thing you see there is Sonic. You're number one, you're in trouble. But then number two, maybe you have to start thinking differently and doing something, going in a different direction, and not trying to be the big dog with the big dogs of like Universal and Warner Brothers and Disney, because you obviously can't compete at that level with what you have, and at least with the IP that you have. I mean, it's risky. It's really risky to make original content based on nothing, because you just don't know how people are going to respond to it. It could be a great story, but unless there's some big name behind it, if there's a Tom Cruise, if they're like today, I read that Paramount's going to distribute and produce Martin Scorsese's next movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, The Killers at a Flower Moon, based on the book. And like that's great. That's big news for them.
So that hasn't even started production yet.
No, but
because the next Scorsese film is that Irish.
Yeah, but that's wrapping up post production. That's coming out this year. So the next one, who knows? Maybe it'll be in a couple of years, 3 years from now. We'll get a chance to see it. But that kind of thing. I think that's where.
I think that's I think you're totally right. Like, you're right. I think we've hit the nail right on the head with that. Because what was it the other day or yesterday or 2 days ago? That Warner Brothers is going to be paying J.J. Abrams $500 million to be exclusive with them. That might sound like a lot of money, but I think that's a good investment. If you're Warner Brothers, if you can have an exclusive agreement with a Chris Nolan and a J.J. Abrams, I think that's a smart idea. And I feel like, I don't know, on the one hand, you can make an argument and say like, well, like the Hollywood or the industry, they want to play it safe. That's why they keep remaking these films or keep making new entries or whatever. And they're trying to stick with this. But I feel like, honestly, if you look at the box office for the last couple of years, I kind of feel like it's a really big hit and miss. For every, comic book adaptation like Endgame, you have, you know, comic book adaptations like Shazam and Hellboy, which Hellboy was an outright
forgot
bomb.
that came out.
Yeah, and Shazam, even though, you know, it got good critical reviews, that also underperformed. So you look at things like that and you're like, or like even Dumbo. I mean, yeah, so Dumbo was a well-known property. I mean, everybody at least has heard of Dumbo, even if they hadn't seen the movie. But that film really didn't do that well either domestically, so, or worldwide even. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, if I was running a Sony or a Paramount, I would do the same thing. I would say, okay, let's find these good directors. You know, like you get like a Jordan Peele or whatever. You get whatever director you can to be exclusive retainer with you and work, you know, have them agree to make their next 5 movies with you or something like that. Not just, I mean, or, you know, you're a Paramount again, you know, you pull out Dora the Explorer. It's like, oh, this will make us money. It's like, well, will it? Is that like a thing for sure?
Yeah, I feel like it's the other way. Like, it's a for sure thing that it's not going to make that much money. I mean, whatever the margins are that they're playing with, they're really thin. So if it turns a profit for them, I'm sure it will eventually, you know, with ancillaries or whatever. Yeah. It's not going to be like it's not going to be in the top 10 of the summer box office. No. Or maybe it will with this summer. Who knows?
But there's a huge possibility that Dora could be a bomb.
Yeah, I think
that could totally happen.
That's a very real possibility, and they probably are aware. I don't think they're like unaware of.
I mean, these people running these studios. I mean, these people running the studios. I mean, these are all people with MBA degrees or law degrees, or these are well-educated people. Like, these aren't like morons off the street. I mean, they're dealing with budgets of hundreds of millions of dollars for these films. They've done all this market research, and then, you know, they produce a film like Pet Sematary that makes $113 million worldwide after
Pets. Yeah, I mean, that might have been okay for that movie. I don't imagine the budget was too high, and, you know, I don't know if anyone, maybe after the successes of it, they figured Stephen King had a little bit of a boost, and
it turned out he didn't, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, we haven't talked at all about Tarzan. And,
oh, yeah.
You know, 1999. I mean, you know, good for Tarzan. You said it was the 5th highest grossing movie of that year.
Yeah.
That's surprising given how many great movies came out that year.
I mean, I guess we talked a little bit about it, like, off air, but, you know, the idea of, like, you know, where does it fall in that Disney Renaissance era? I mean, I guess, you know, for the people listening, I mean, I guess you can decide for yourself. I always kind of thought that Tarzan was, like, the last one or amongst that last era one, but I mean, you could definitely make an argument that at least financially that Disney's animated renaissance didn't really go much for I don't think it really went much further than Tarzan, because all the other ones did not. Maybe Atlantis secretly made like $200 or $300 million worldwide, but
I don't know about that. I don't think so.
But it definitely there was a huge tapering off.
Yeah. Tarzan, it's fine. It's not one of my favorite Disney movies. I was actually just watching it. Taylor was watching it, you know, at the house. You know, it's really well animated. If you like Phil Collins, you're gonna like some of the songs, I guess. I don't know about that, but you know, it's fine. In all accounts, it's a movie that came out, and my biggest connection with Tarzan is it makes me think of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, actually, so. I was gonna say that literally. That's my greatest memory of Tarzan is Kingdom Hearts, because that first Kingdom Hearts game only came out like 2 or 3 years after the first Tarzan. I was gonna call it the first Tarzan, but
I think there was a direct-to-DVD
was there sequel. A sequel? I mean, I think that Tarzan, and I agree with you. It's a very like mediocre, okay film, but I think that, at least in my mind, one reason why I think that is because the cluster of films that Disney released from, like, let's just say, you know, late 80s to 2000. I mean, they released so many like iconic good films, you know, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, even you had, you know, your Toy Story, Nightmare Before Christmas. And, you know, I mean, I even like Hercules more than this. I mean, they release so many movies that like Tarzan kind of gets lost in the shuffle, almost a little bit like, at least for me, like a Pocahontas. Where it's like I have no beef with Pocahontas, I just don't think it's anywhere near as good as that, you know, like those other movies listed.
And I like Pocahontas more because I just like the music better
than those other ones. Or
no, than Tarzan.
Oh yeah. No, I could see that.
Hunchback is far better.
Yeah, that's another one. It gets lost in the shuffle because of all these great. I mean, this I don't know. I mean, I guess this is more opinion based, but I feel like I mean, I know Disney has a greater stranglehold of the market than it did. It has a stronger grip now than it did in the 90s, or especially 99. I mean, I kind of like that Disney more. That Disney of that era, like, I like their films more. Like, I thought they were more unique and they felt more like they had more heart. And I feel like now when I think of Disney, I just think of this, huge conglomerate that just basically bought everything that makes them good now. At least in the box office.
I mean, you're not talking specifically about Tarzan, though, right?
Oh, no. Not specifically about Tarzan. But I just meant that, like, in that era, when I think of Disney, like, I think, like, wow, like, they were so creative and unique. But then, yeah, for your Tarzan, I mean, maybe they were just losing the steam, and it was just kind of like, it's... Yeah, I mean, it's decent. I mean, it is shocking, though, to see that it did so well for 99. And it's crazy, too. I mean, if you're listening to this and... you remember watching that movie as a kid or even seeing it in the theaters. I mean, it's like stunning to think that movie's 20 years old. It's the same thing like last week, some on Austin Powers 2 that, like, I know that, like, logically it makes sense that Austin Powers 2 came out 20 years ago. But then, like, actually really think of it, it's like, oh my gosh, like, I remember watching that and it doesn't feel like 20 years ago.
It never does.
It
never does.
So did you like Phil Collins' music in it?
No,
how about that?
Not really. It's not. How
about Rosie O'Donnell?
Not on my Disney playlist. She was okay. She was all right. No. Minnie Driver's pretty good as Jane.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a fine movie. Like I said, it's not one that I watched when it came out at the time, so I don't have any kind of like a nostalgic resonance with it or connection, but. It's fine. I watched it a couple years ago, and I missed a lot of Disney movies because at a certain point I kind of just stopped watching them outside of the Pixar ones. And so when I got with Taylor, she's a huge Disney fan, and eventually I kind of filled in those gaps. And some of them I thought were painful, or for me they were painful to watch, like Hercules, which is not a popular opinion because for some reason people of our generation really love Hercules and the songs in it. And I'm not a fan of that movie, and we don't need to go into that any further. But
there are some very painful Disney animated films, like the cow one. Did you watch that with Taylor?
Is that no? Like, was that like in the 2000s, like the Coming Home, like something Home on the Range?
Was that? Yeah, I think.
Is that what it's called?
I think Roseanne Barr is the voice of the main.
For some reason,
cow.
I'm thinking of Courtney Cox. Was she in that? I don't know.
She may have been,
but we didn't go into. I never saw like Chicken Little. Okay. We didn't meet the Robinsons, like not that era, but it was more like I'd never seen Hercules, I had never seen Mulan, I had never seen Tarzan, I had never seen Treasure Planet or Lost in Atlantis. So those movies that like I did watch, and I liked some of them. I'd never seen Hunchback of Notre Dame actually before she showed it to me.
Oh, that's really surprising.
For you. I love. I'm a Francophile of Parisian culture. I love the Notre Dame itself and the music. I mean, it really spoke to me when I watched it. That's one that I really loved.
I can't believe you didn't. That's actually surprising to me.
I don't know why. I mean, I'm thinking like, what was it? You know what it was? It came out in like '97 or something, right?
Okay.
I was only watching Titanic. That's.
You were watching Titanic for the 8th time.
Yeah. I watched that movie so many times.
Yeah. I mean, I think we might have said this before in an episode, but yeah, I was in that same boat. I watched it 6 times, and I don't think I've ever watched a movie. I know for sure I've never seen a movie more times in theaters than Titanic.
Oh yeah, me neither. In 1997, I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
I was watching Titanic and Face Off, I think.
Yeah, it was the same way. I mean, for me, I was like 6 years old or 7 years old, and I feel like I vividly remember watching Face Off a lot and Titanic.
I watched Face Off a lot. A lot of The Rock.
Yeah, the Con Air.
I like a lot of good Nicolas Cage movie. Leaving Las Vegas. No, maybe not that, but.
And they don't even. I mean, they won't even make those kind of movies today.
Well, John Wick.
Yeah, I guess.
Kind of get that.
That's true. So I guess. I guess we can get into our review a little bit of Men in Black International. So what were it's like you mentioned, we watched it together purposely to talk about it for this episode, but I think we both agreed that after we watched it almost became a combination of Back to the Box Office episode and Unwatchables, because boy, was that movie bad.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I really wanted to leave the theater. Like I didn't want to like look over to you and say, "Hey, let's go," but I knew the only reason I even agreed to see it was so that we could do this and I could talk about it with somewhat of a knowledge about what I'm talking about. But even how many days ago was it? 4 days ago? Like,
yeah.
I sitting here right now. I largely don't remember what happened. and that's a sign of something that's just totally not engaging. And I mean, I've heard other reviewers talk about the movie, and they didn't have such great contempt for it as you and I might. They called it mediocre, the cinematic equivalent of beige. And I guess those are good ways to look at it in sort of a non-aggressive way. But for me, I felt this movie was aggressively bad.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. I think that this is probably the worst movie I've seen this year. Because, I mean, it literally gave me a headache.
And you saw Dark Phoenix and Godzilla.
Yeah, and replicas.
I missed all those, yeah.
I mean, I've seen so many films purposely for the purpose of recording and talking about my opinions. Yeah, I mean, this was bad. I mean, it gave our friend James, who was on the Endgame episode, gave him a headache. You said you felt a little... I mean, like, I feel with Men in Black, I mean... Well, first off, I guess one made criticism that if you are a fan of Men in Black, especially, like, I think the first two kind of feel very similar to one another. I think the third one feels a little bit more removed because there's a lot more CG and it feels grander and it looks a lot different, but... If you're a fan of the first two Men in Black and you like that kind of humor and that kind of look and grittiness, this film has absolutely none of that. So right off the bat, it gets rid of all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things in it that are just like stupid and cringy. Like, I mean, there's like a scene, I guess this is spoilers, like the part where like Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, they're working on that hover thing that they fly or whatever, and like it's crashed and like the beard alien comes out of the
water.
Yeah, that was just horrible. So like in the scene, what happened was, well, you've seen, if you've seen the trailers for the movie, you know they have that little cube and they do the Grand Canyon thing or whatever, and basically one alien has his beard component of his face be stolen from them. He puts himself in that canister and. Yeah, they say something about how they drank out of it, and then it turned out it was the sweat from the beard. It was just, if you watch it, it's just so bad. And then they follow that up. Remember this? I think the immediate scene after that is Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth. They're working on a bike, and they're going through that little alien who's like talking on their behalf because they got in a big fight.
Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah, they're like, oh, can you tell? What was the girl? What was Tessa Thompson? Was she M? Okay. Yeah. So they were like, oh, can you tell M I did... Because he was H, right? It's like, can you tell M that blah, blah, blah it was like two just awful scenes back to back.
Yeah, I told you this, like, so in the first scene in the movie, when we meet, like, I don't know, 12-year-old Tessa Thompson, she encounters this, like, alien in her bedroom. And it's like a little baby alien, and everyone's afraid. Like, that's where she first sees the Men in Black. She's very intrigued by these people wearing black suits and sunglasses, and witnesses her parents get neuralized. But she helps this alien escape, and he's like, says something to her. The whole time I was like, if this alien comes back, if she sees him again when she's an adult and he helps her out, in my mind I was thinking, I'm gonna walk out of this theater. And then when we go to the scene, that island where Rebecca Ferguson,
which is the present time,
you know, however many years later. And Rebecca Ferguson, like, actually, I think she was one of the best parts of the movie. The, you know,
3-arm woman.
Yeah,
or was she 4-arm?
I think she was 3-armed. She had one thumb on her back. Yeah, her guard happens to be that alien, and I lost it. Like, I think I audibly turned to you and I was like, oh my god.
Because honestly, because they say that when like, Men in Black, they say something like that little alien, whatever they called it. Like when he grows up, he could be really vicious or something.
Yeah,
and I totally forgot about that. Like during the movie, like when I saw the big guy, which again you've seen this in the trailer, the big guy that we're talking about, and him as a little guy, they're both in the trailers. Like they show it, both versions of him, but I totally forgot about the whole thing. So you looked over to me, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that's gonna happen. And then and the thing that he tells her is so stupid and unique. So when he's leaving because she helps him, whatever, escape the Men in Black. He tells her something like, in his native language, that, you know, I'll kill anybody you want me to kill for you.
In a vicious manner.
Yeah, in a vicious manner. And it's like, wow, what a really weirdly specific thing that could come out later in the film that, in all honesty, that couldn't have even needed to happen. Chris Hemsworth could have just beat that guy in a fight. Well, and it would have accomplished the same thing.
Chris Hemsworth doesn't do anything. I mean, we were talking about this. Like, it's really weird how the movie's set up because Chris Hemsworth is clearly playing the Will Smith role in his persona and his kind of humor, but he is in fact like the the senior agent.
He's the Tommy Lee Jones of the film, really.
In the position, but like in character, he's Will Smith, and somehow Tessa Thompson, who just joined in a very brief montage scene that includes her switching from a black skirt to black pants, and that's the entirety of the montage. For her orientation, somehow she knows everything. She's sitting there saying really complex, like technological jargon, and Hemsworth is like an idiot saying, "Oh, who cares? Let's just see how it works." Like, why? Why does this make sense in this world?
I mean, because the whole film takes place. I mean, I don't know the exact like timeline of days or weeks, but the whole film, she's a probationary officer, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think she's been a part of the Men in Black for like maybe like a week or two. And again, her whole, and like you're right in this film, like she literally just finds them, and then like Emma Thompson, she asked her, she was like, "Oh, you know, why should you be a member?" And she basically says, "I've got nothing to lose, and like I have time on my hands." What's her weird?
She says, "I have nothing to lose. I look good in black."
Oh, that's it.
Didn't she say something about wanting to know the secrets of the universe?
Yeah, that was it. Those are the three characters. So, I mean, so if you remember again for the first Men in Black, Will Smith is a hothead cop, but he's physically accomplished. He hunts on the guy. And then the whole reason why, when they do that whatever interview process, where it's him and those 5 or 6 guys from those military branches, you know, they wanted to see if you could think outside the box, and that was the whole thing. Like this, so they see him shooting a gun. You've seen him like chase down somebody on foot, and it's believable. Then when they do the whole montage for Will Smith in the first one, they show him deleting, you know, his thumbprints and like that whole thing. Like it feels like, wow, this is very cinematic. For Tessa Thompson, I mean, literally, it's her standing in a room, and they're like, "You're well trained." They're saying all this stuff, and all she's doing is putting on a watch. And her job before she's been a black agent is she's a telemarketer.
Yeah,
right.
She's a telemarketer with great qualifications because she turns down the CIA and the FBI. And she's like hacking into satellites and stuff and tracking these interstellar objects coming towards us. Whatever. I can believe that someone is a genius and can do this kind of stuff and has that capability. I guess I'm fine with that. The main problem with the movie comes from the fact that her whole goal, you said, like throughout the whole thing, she's probationary and she wants to be. What are the stakes for this character? This is what I always look at when I go see a movie. I don't care if it's a prestige Oscar movie, if it's an action movie. Like, what are the stakes for this character and how do they play it out or defined on the film? In the first scene of the movie, if we had seen something happen with her parents, like so her parents got neuralized, right?
Yeah.
If we had seen something happen with one of her parents and she didn't understand it, and someone had tried to explain to her childlike self that, oh, you know, life works in mysterious ways, or some other platitude like that about, you know, the universe, and then she grows up wanting to understand what that meant. And the whole thing maybe is just, you know, then her saying, I want to understand how the universe works, is kind of also tied in with like her trying to figure out what happened to her family or something emotional, something that connects us to her, that connects her to the past. What are the stakes? What happened?
Like if her parents had been murdered or abducted, right. Something like that by an alien.
That's a stupid, that's a really stupid pitch, but just like on top of my head, that's what I'm thinking of. The way the movie plays out, it's like she wants to join Men in Black because she's interested and like curious, okay? She finds Men in Black. She finds this secret thing in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and then she joins it. And it's like, okay, well, I guess that was her goal, and I guess she accomplished it within the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie. So the rest of the time, like, what the hell are we doing? They're on this mission to protect this weapon that's supposedly meant to destroy this race of people that we've never seen, have never cared about. I mean, I can't imagine how anyone's sitting down. This is why I'm saying, like earlier, this movie seems like it was just made in a factory by people who were like, okay, we have Men in Black, so somebody's got to do something with it. So we're going to assign, you know, great, you hire writers, you hire all the people that are needed to make a movie, and they just make it. And there's no reason why. There's just, the reason is because Men in Black.
Well, because, I mean, you're right that, like, from that point forward, so from the point that she joins the Men in Black, she immediately gets sent to England, whatever, London branch to train. From that point forward, almost everything in the plot has to do with Chris Hemsworth. Like basically everybody, because he's already there. He has a connection to Liam Neeson. He has a connection to that mean guy that doesn't like him, that you think's a villain, but then turns out being his friend at the end. Yeah. Like he's the one, and like you said, I mean, he's kind of the combination of the two. So he's the star Men in Black agent, but he's also the one that's kind of more of the he is the veteran between the two of them, and he's also kind of lost his way, which It's really stupid how many times they say that in the movie. Like, oh, you're not the same. You're not the same as you were 3 years ago. It's
Yeah.
that was...
I wonder what that means. Like,
Yeah. And then they never really dive into it. But like...
Well, he got neuralized. Like, okay.
Yeah, but like that was the thing I was confused about. So did being neuralized, did that change who he was as a person, or didn't it just change that one incident?
That's what it's not made clear. I mean, it makes it seem like the neuralizer has some kind of lasting neurological impact on people, which, I mean, it makes sense that it would, but that's just never come up in the other movies. And frankly, it doesn't matter. Like, who are we supposed to care about in this story? And maybe, this is all fine. Like, I don't have to have this kind of layered character study in a summer action movie. My main problem was that it was boring. Yeah, I was sitting there out of my mind looking at my phone so many times to see like how long has this been going on and how long until I can get free of it.
Yeah, I mean
that's not a good sign.
You're right. I mean, again, like if there was some logical issues, I mean, like you could probably look at like a John Wick 3 and say, well, why don't they just do this? Or Aladdin, when the genie made Aladdin a prince, why wasn't he an actual prince instead of looking like a prince? I mean, you can always poke those kind of logical holes into films if you really try. But yeah, for this one, you're right. Like, I mean, I looked on my phone several times during the film, and I mean, not only the parts that weren't boring were just, it looked bad. Like, so the scene. So in the movie, for, I don't know, 2/3 of the movie, the main bad guys, I guess, are these two, like, smoke alien things that take on the shape of one guy. So it's like two of them. And again, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen what we're talking about. There's a scene where they're, like, shooting at them in London. They looked horrible. Like, they looked really bad to look at. And then on top of that, like, at that same scene, like, that's when Chris Hemsworth's friend that gives him the secret weapon,
the Jababian alien,
in my opinion, if you think Jar Jar Binks was bad, this guy makes Jar Jar Binks like way infinitely better. Like there's like a scene where like Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, they're like getting like beers or whatever at this alien friendly bar, and he's like looking at like Tessa, and he's like doing some weird gyric motion that like he wants to like have sex with her. And it was really bad. Like it wasn't only bad because like, oh, he wants to like have sex with her, but like it just, the whole thing was like, man, like did you guys even think about like how like dumb this is? This isn't even like, when he did that, I think I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me, this looks so stupid.
Yeah. For me, I'm not looking at it like, I'm not picking. The director F. Gary Gray, he's a competent director. He directed The Fate of the Furious. He directed Straight Outta Compton. Like he made good movies. Wow. I'm sure every person associated with this movie is talented. Like the actors, the writers, like this is symptomatic of a larger problem, which is what we talked about. Like I think from the top down, this is mandated by people obviously who are looking after the financial interests of this company, and they're just trying to pull what they have, but in doing so maybe they do it hastily, and also just there's not a lot of sense to it. Like what are the stakes here? If you know what they would be afraid to do, they would be afraid to like, okay, let's make this a much smaller movie. Let's make the stakes just about this one character. Maybe it's Tessa Thompson, maybe it's Chris Hemsworth, but maybe it's just the stakes for her character, her family, something like that. Not everything has to be on a global, like universal scale, and I feel like that's what a lot of executives want nowadays. Is like, okay, Endgame had literally the whole half of the universe, died. Well, how are you going to compete with that? The answer is that you cannot. You cannot in any way. Not in budget, not in scale, not in people's like resonance with the characters. You can't. So I think we need to go back. If we scaled these movies down, they could be good movies. Like there could be a good Men in Black movie.
Well, I mean, if you did Men in Black, that was similar to Men in Black 1. I mean, the first Men in Black, even though it was The Fate of the Earth, I mean, it basically takes place, in 3 blocks in New York City.
Yeah,
like it's very contained to that, and like I agree. Like you watch a film like again like John Wick 3. Like I mean the ramifications are large for John Wick, but it seems like they're not gonna talk about, they're not blowing up the earth. Talking about like the fate of one guy and 50 assassins or whatever. But yeah, I mean for Men in Black, I mean they're showing all these locations. It's not even the fate of like one planet, but like the weapon has the ability to destroy galaxies or whatever they say, or the whole solar system.
It's also muddled. Like John Wick is so simple.
Yeah.
The premise is like, some people got his dog, he wants revenge. The stakes, if he doesn't get it, he's gonna die. Okay. It doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
I want to know, what did Tessa Thompson want? All we know that she wanted was to become a Men in Black member. That's it. And then she did it in the first 20 minutes. So the rest of the story, the rest of the plot is totally inconsequential. I'm like, what are we watching this for? You don't tell me what she actually wants. Like, if there's nothing deeper and she just wants to be Men in Black, okay, then show her search for it. Show her training for it. I don't know.
Show her become like, she goes from being like, I mean,
is there a test that she has to, overcome in order to qualify for this post? She's kind of just thrown right into it.
You're right. There's no desires. We haven't even touched on it yet, but what do you think of Liam Neeson in it? So Liam Neeson's character, he's the boss of the London branch or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like I told James, I was like, because before he watched the film before I did, and I asked him, I'm like, who's the bad guy in International? And I was like, let me guess. I'm like, is it Liam Neeson because they don't show a bad guy in the trailer? And he's like, yeah, it is. And I mean, when you're watching it, like, this is how stupid this movie is. So you think that it's like, okay, once you realize that Liam Neeson's the bad guy, you would think to yourself, like, okay, these shape-shifting aliens have taken his form and they've been living his life. This is what I was thinking. They've been living his life for 3 years, and, like, it's a fake. It's a total fake. That's not even the case. In this film, it's actually this thing, another alien race called the Hive. They can basically, like, take you over and control you, but you're still actually in there. So they haven't gotten rid of you. Like, they've basically taken you over. And it turns out that he's that. So in the film, like, there's a big, showdown at the Eiffel Tower. For some reason, it's the three of them, Chris Hemsworth, Liam Neeson, and Tessa Thompson. Like, I mean, Liam Neeson, like, he's, even though he's this big alien thing or whatever, like, he's looking at Chris Hemsworth and he's like, I know you're still in there. And you see part of, Liam Neeson's face. And you think to yourself, like, okay, they're going to be able to fix him, right? They're going to get this Hive alien out of him. That's what I thought. I'm like, they're going to do something to fix Liam Neeson. And instead, he gets, like, obliterated, right? Like, they shoot the gun out of him and just... they turn him into nothing. Like, it totally disintegrated him. And then afterwards, Tessa Thompson does, like, Chris Hemsworth's looking at the Eiffel Tower. He's like, it's kind of like these little sags. His father figure, died. Mm-hmm. And then, like, it's just kind of like something like, oh, you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, something like that happens. It's like, that was your father figure died in front of your eyes.
His reaction was appropriate because all he did was say that he was like a father to him.
Yeah.
We never saw it. Why would we believe it? Nothing that they put on screen for us demonstrates that there was that kind of relationship there. So this is the problem with, like, you can't, at its simplistic level, it's show don't tell, but then you especially don't tell, like, in the climax of the movie to hope that there's some kind of, like, emotional impact in that moment. That is so cheap, and it's just sloppy. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm getting angry thinking about it.
And then when they obliterate him, I was literally my thought. I'm like, I thought that you would redeem him or something, and but no, they just annihilate him, and it's like, well, there he goes. And again, I guess it's so much easier to criticize something than actually, make it like ourselves or myself. But I feel like with Men in Black, like with International, I don't know what I would have done. Honestly, if I was an exec at Sony, I would have gone with the idea of doing the 21 Jump Street Men in Black crossover before this.
More interesting, or make this a Netflix series or a TV series or whatever. Like, give it 10 episodes. You have the runway with it.
I would never have made this movie without Will Smith.
Yeah.
Maybe could you make an argument that Tommy Lee Jones is a 70-year-old guy and maybe he literally retires 20 years ago and he's still doing it? Could you make some argument to not keep him? I would keep him if you could. But if you couldn't keep him, you definitely need Will Smith because this is like his thing.
Yeah. It's a hard sell.
Maybe you're right. Like, maybe you could have done a Men in Black live. I know they did a Men in Black cartoon back in the 90s or 1000s, whatever. Yeah. So maybe you could have done a live action one, and you could have done different people. But I would have just said you guys shouldn't have even made this film. And like some news has come out too that there was a lot of like conflict on set.
Oh, really?
And that the actors actually hired writers to help work on the script.
Really?
Like as they were filming. So it sounded like a huge disaster.
I don't think. I don't know whether. I don't know if actors can hire writers, and there's usually punch-up work being done while stuff is in production. So clearly they had script issues, and they probably had multiple writers, and it's hard. It's hard to make a movie, especially a movie like this, where, like we said, it's like it's not. you're just told, here, make a Men in Black movie. Like, don't.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, assuming that that's what the charge was. Yeah, I think there would have been something at least very interesting and weird about a 21 Jump Street Men in Black crossover. That would be. And if you could get, like, Channing Tatum. And,
yeah, I mean, if you could have got that's. I mean, if you could have done that whole grouping.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But the way it was, I'm not a fan. This has not been a good summer movie.
No, it
season.
has not been.
I don't.
And this movie is totally irredeemable. I mean, I would give it, for the unwatchable list, it's certainly a no timer. I gave this. I know during the movie I asked you, I was like, "What would you give this on a scale of 1 to 10?" And you said a 0.
Yeah.
I think I'd give this like a 1. I mean, there's literally, like, I'd have to really think back about what films that I like less than this. I mean, if I'm walking out of the film thinking it was horrible, I checked my phone like 4 times to see the time, and I got a headache. I mean, that's a big issue.
For me, I will say I don't watch a lot of movies. If I look at a movie, generally I know my own taste, right?
Yeah.
So I don't go to a lot of movies that I think I know I'm not going to like. And people can say that I'm closed-minded or whatever, but I've not been wrong. If I happen to catch one of those movies on like TV, I'm like, yeah, I was right not to go see this because I don't like it. So I haven't seen I didn't see Godzilla because I just know that's not a movie that interests me. And I didn't see Dark Phoenix, and I didn't see Secret Life of Pets, even though I genuinely like animated movies. If they're funny, I just never saw the first one. I just don't have interest in that franchise. And frankly, while watching the NBA playoffs and finals, they showed the commercials so much, I just didn't see the movie out of protest. I wouldn't. But
I can see that. Yeah,
Men in Black. I mean, I think the thing that made me actually, in addition to seeing this podcast, was my familiarity with the franchise. In fact, I'd seen the other 3.
Yeah.
And I like the stars, and I knew F. Gary Gray did it. I'm like, oh, that might be interesting to see what he can do. It was a mistake. I should always go with my gut.
Yeah.
It's just so disappointing.
I mean, I'm in the same boat you are. I mean, I clearly remember, I watched Men in Black 3 when I was in Korea, and I got some posters in Korean of the Men in Black 3, and I remember when I watched the third one, I didn't love it, but I liked it more than the second one, and I thought, okay, this is okay. I had no problem with it.
Yeah, I agreed.
And I liked the first one. I actually think the first one's a really good movie. But I mean, before the reviews came out for it, let's say a month ago, I could never envision that the drop off between 3 and 4 was going to be this vast. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many more, failures Chris Hemsworth can have outside of Thor before they just stop giving him these kind of films. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe his agent should be a little bit better and say, we're only going to work with good scripts, which I don't know. I mean, I think it's crazy that, he turned down the Star Trek 4 role, and
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I really feel like this Men in Black 4 could really be transformational in a lot of ways. I feel like, first off, I don't know when the next Men in Black is going to get made. And then I also don't know what big franchise is Chris Hemsworth going to be cast in again to actually be the face of it. I don't know what that... I mean, could he be the voice in a big animated movie? I mean, probably. I mean, but again, I don't think...
That's the one genre he hasn't done. Because look, running through the list that we went through before, he's done a war movie. He's done the... adult action thriller with the Michael Mann. He did broad family comedy. He did he's doing the franchise work. I don't know what else he can do. He's done the smaller indie stuff with Bad Times at the El Royale.
I like I said, I mean, I like him, but yeah, it sucks for him. And this is another weird thing too. It's interesting is that this is such a black mark for Chris Hemsworth, I think, and Liam Neeson. He just gets off because for Liam Neeson, as good as an actor as he has been in a lot of crap. He's just been in a lot of movies. I feel like he's in I feel like there's certain years he's in 3 movies in a year.
Yeah.
So he's just all over the place. But
I don't know what has Liam Neeson done that's good in the last 5-10 years.
Well,
I mean, the last good movie I saw him in was Taken.
Did you ever see The Grey?
Oh yeah, actually I like The Grey.
Yeah, that's a different actor that movie would have been horrible. If he had given it to I don't know why I'm thinking Nick Nolte.
I don't know why either.
That would have been really bad.
Boy,
he would have looked like a homeless man getting eaten by wolves.
Nick Nolte is he's pretty good though. He might have been able to pull it off.
I liked him in The Old Man and the Gun. He was in there, right? He was the friend.
I never saw that.
Or maybe I'm thinking of another. I think I'm thinking of a different guy now. Anyways, yeah, I guess probably went a good ways with this. So I would say, I guess to recap, I thought Men in Black International was an abomination. I mean, hopefully, there's virtually no way that next weekend the 99 film will make more than which will be the 2019 film being Toy Story 4.
Yeah.
If Toy Story 4 opens at $20 million, it's not going to happen. So I guess this trend, hopefully it changes. But yeah, I mean, as of right now, I mean, I guess depending on how you view Disney, if you hate Disney, then I guess the one thing I would say is that if it wasn't for them right now, there would be a lot more articles on CNBC and CNN and Fox that would be talking about the fact that movie theaters are incredibly struggling and how they'd be letting people go or even closing. So,
yeah.
I mean, hopefully that's not going to be the case going forward, but I don't know. I personally, I don't perceive that the next few years are going to be very good for movie theaters. I think that there's going to be an even worse storm coming, but I guess we'll just have to see if that happens. But
I think so. My movie of the summer so far, Always Be My Maybe, Netflix exclusive.
Really? I've heard of that.
Fantastic movie. You know, it was featuring Keanu Reeves like I've never seen him before.
Is it with Winona Ryder?
No, it's with Ali Wong and I don't remember the actor's name from Fresh Out the Boat. It's a romantic comedy that just came out on Netflix.
Wow, he's in a lot of stuff this year. John Wick 3, Always Be My Maybe, and then Toy Story 4.
Yeah. He's having quite a year.
Yeah.
Big summer for Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I guess 90s is back.
All right.
Well, definitely thank you guys for listening. Make sure you check out the rest of our content on the channel, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
See you next time.
Bye.
See you next time.
Bye.
See you next